Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello, everybody. Look who I found somewhere in the rainbow. Our friend Daniel Assisi. And as soon as I could grab him, I said, okay, you won't go home without giving a few words to our life. So, Dr. Daniel Assisi, my American brother, welcome to our show again.
Thank you, friend. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys one more time. I missed you. I hope you guys are all doing great out there in beautiful Dublin. And it's really great to be with you guys again one more time.
Yeah, yes. Anyway, so a lot of challenge, a lot of new news for everybody in all aspects of your life. Some have more difficult to accept, others more accept is easy. Easiest way. So we need to adapt ourselves, but always with our feet on the ground. And I hope everybody's okay. So today, Dan, we'll talk about from selfishness to selflessness. It's a very tricky topic because we need to understand what's the difference both and how we can apply it to ourselves. And first of all, thank you for our Irish friends who are joining us. I can see here a lot of people is coming. Thank you for our American friends as well, all the listeners from Kardec Radio. It's a pleasure to be here. See? Huh? I don't know.
Hi, folks. Great to have you guys. I see some people trickling on the comments. Say hello. Let us know where you're coming from. We always appreciate that. I want to say hi to Neji over there as well, out of YouTube. Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Neji. Yeah, today she's on holiday. Okay, I gave her holidays. Yeah. So before we start, let's do our initial prayer. I'd like to invite everyone to sit comfortably or just raise up your thoughts towards our mentors, towards God. Ask for the superior spirit to fulfill us with courage, with wisdom, with faith, to face all the challenges we need to face, overcome the barriers. May these vibrations reach our brothers and sisters who are suffering in the hospital or at home with anxiety, those who are thinking about suicide, those who are feeling alone, and those who are hopeless. May these good vibrations reach them, and may God in His mercy look after them according to their merits, their needs. So be it. Amen. Okay, so we are live in Chicago as well. Don, good to see you, Don. Yeah, so Nage and our friend Don here. Good. So, my dear friends, let me put your screen here. And I'm the background. So break a leg, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks. Thanks for having me. Thank you so much for making the time and letting me be here. It's always a great pleasure to see you guys. I like to start by saying that I've been fortunate to receive 2 unexpected gifts from Spiritism in my life. One of them, of course, is this perspective from a higher vantage point, so to say, of what life is. It has really transformed how I live my own life. The second one, which was even more unexpected, is this incredible opportunity that I have had over the times to get to know friends, new friends, and make new friends in different places of the world that I otherwise would never have met or known were it not for Spiritism. So I feel like you all are and definitely in the second category, in the sense of, I feel close to you and I appreciate all the love and support that you guys always send my way as well. I wish, of course, that I could be there in person. This is the time of the year that generally I get to go to the UK and see some of you in person, but nature had other plans and we're all being cautious and we are all thinking about life in general, right? So thank you for being here and taking the time to spend some time with us. The topic for today is a topic that I think is relevant for our times. I'm calling it From Selfishness to Selflessness, and I feel like it's really meaningful because we live in very interesting times, to say the least, right? We are in the middle of a pandemic. We have seen lots of different natural disasters and political situations. In my own home today is an election day. It's a really big election for us. We are having presidential elections and taking place. And as you know, the last 4 years or so have been really, really polarized in many different ways. And there seems to be a lot of division between people. And more, it seems like we're having trouble really understanding and relating to other people. And it's been, in many different ways, a tale of you're either with me or you're against me kind of thing, which has not led us to better well-being. It just hasn't. And it's not only the United States, of course, it's in the entire world. And let's be honest, I think the world is a little bit in trouble, right? If we are going to call a spade and really talk about things, we are going to see that in the past 10 years or so, lots of things have been happening, accelerated in this last 5 or so. We talked about natural disasters. We talked about, world crises. We talk about conflicts. We talk about division amongst people. And a lot of it has led us to really think that there is either good people or bad people in the world. There's people that we like or people that we don't like. And that's people who are with us or people who are against us. It has really separated us from our neighbors in many different ways, in ways that perhaps have not been healthy or useful for us. So what we want to do today is really talk about selflessness, selfishness, and how they come together. Because for many of us, it seems like the world sometimes it's a very easy place to be in. It's either black or white. Either you're a selfish person or either you are a selfless person. And I'm not quite sure that's often the case. And I think that there is a big spectrum between these 2 different states of being. And we want to talk a little bit about that today. We want to talk about what is selfishness in a way, what is selflessness or altruism in another way, and how can we go from one to the other? Because if we think the world is black and white, and even though it sounds like it's a very easy proposition to take to heart, I'm not quite sure that it really helps us. I'm not sure that it really helps us move forward, because if you believe there's either or, it becomes hard for us to know what's the threshold, what is the tipping point at which I can move from being selfish to selfless, or vice versa, right? That somebody else can also move from that place to another. And I think one of the things that we want to do is to really talk about how we're all of us are in different parts or different moments of this line that all of us are seeking to become better people, just in different ways. At any given point, all of us are trying to do the best we can to meet our needs and be happy. And so we might find ourselves in this imaginary line that we have drawn here today, that at one point has selfishness, which we define as that moment or those attitudes and choices we make when we act only for ourselves, regardless of the impact of others. When we're only watching out for ourselves and we are aware that we may hurt others in the process of getting what we want, that could be called selfishness. On the other end of the spectrum, we want to place selflessness, or perhaps we should use the word altruism, which means, that condition or that moment in time when we are really acting for others out of devotion to their own welfare. We're doing things for others because we care about them. We're not necessarily thinking of us first. And I think that we can say in a roundabout way that many of us have the impression that the world really is closer to this first state of selfishness, where everybody's just watching out for themselves and just trying to get what they want, regardless of how it makes others feel. Then we are closer to the altruistic piece. So this is obviously a value judgment. You can put yourself wherever it is, and you can put others whatever you want, and you can decide where you think the world is. But my point here is, it's important for us to think of it as a spectrum, as a line, and that we can find ourselves at any point of this line, at any given point in our lives, that different parts of us may be at different parts of the line. And we ultimately also want to talk about how do we move ourselves and how do we move the world from the left to the right, from number one to number two. Because once there's only one and two, it feels like it's really hard for us to move from here to here all of a sudden. And we're not asking the world to go from one to two all of a sudden. We're saying there are steps and there are efforts that we can do along the way to make life easier for us. And that's what we want to kind of offer today, a framework, if you will, a simpler framework to help us place ourselves in the spectrum, to help us think about ourselves and others as dynamic beings that are always growing and ever evolving. And in the process, when we get to know ourselves a little bit better and understand what is ahead, my hope is that we'll find different ways to frame our attitudes and our behaviors and our actions to help us get to a place where we are a little bit more selfless. And in so doing, helping contribute to the world to become a better place. I hope that makes sense. I hope that it may help you give some common language and some reference points to think about your own life, because no doubt this is a great time for us to think about life and the world in general, in the middle of all what's happening out there, right? This is a good time for reflection and to really consider, how should we do things different moving forward? Because I think that we can all accept that while we want to go back to a sense of stability and comfort, we also know deep inside that the world as it was before this pandemic wasn't exactly working out for everybody. And so how can we move the world towards number two, where it can work for everybody? And I think that's one of my hopes for today. Feel free to chime in as we go along. I'll try to answer your question as we go, but I am really hoping that we will have a chance and time to also talk about, and exchange ideas towards the end, because I'm trying today not to speak that much. I know it's hard and it's difficult, but we're going to try, right? All right, so I think one of the things that we do when we think about this line and about, behavior and code of ethics and everything else is think about, what is our moral compass? What really has led us here? How do we get here? And what is it that is guiding us to go forward? What is it that really guides our decisions, that is the heart of everything that we really want to talk about? And I think for us in the Western world, a lot of it has to do with traditional Christian Judaic values. And in many different ways, we have heard of the 10 Commandments and the Golden Rule. And we're going to talk about that because I think it's important for us to see where our North Star, where our compass comes from. And I think that within Christianity in general, we're all familiar with the 10 Commandments, and yet all these different rules of things that we should or should not do can be said to not necessarily have given us great guidance or complete guidance, right? Because they've been around for quite some time. And in this thousands of years that we've had them, while we have made progress, clearly we're in a situation where we need to understand things differently. And, how can that be? How can we make sense of the world if these 10 things are not working? I can play a video here. I don't know if the audio is going to work, but I think it'll be a funny intro to our topic today as well. So as we know, 10 Commandments came from Moses. I'm going to try to play the video here and see if it's going to work. Let's see. So all jokes apart, right? I don't know if you were able to hear it. I hope you were. And this was our friend Moses. It's an interpretation of Mel Gibson telling us that, Moses maybe was, atop a hill and he had 15 commandments and, he dropped 5 of those. And in dropping 5 of those, we now have a missing part of the puzzle. It's just a funny criticism of the idea that there's something missing, that's something out there that we should consider, that might be necessary for us to attain a better state. If you did not hear the audio, it was just Moses saying, "Behold, I give you 15 commandments," and he drops them, and and he hears then that that's really 10. But the point here is, along with this idea of the 10 Commandments not being enough, we also have to go back to this idea of the Golden Rule, which is an idea and a concept that has been in place with society and humanity in many different ways for thousands of years. And you might have heard different versions of what the Golden Rule is. Perhaps you've heard the version where it says that do not do to others what you would not want them to do to you. Or perhaps you have, heard the take that is do unto others what you would want them to do to you. And this has been an important guiding principle for our society in general for millennia, like I said. And if we look back at history, we can say that 2,000 years before Christ, so 4,000 years ago, in Egypt, we had the goddess Mat telling us that which you hate to be done to you, do not do to another. So saying don't do to others, right? The negative part of that. With Moses, like we just mentioned, that's about 1,300 years before the Christ. So we're talking about 3,300 years thereabouts. In the 10 Commandments, we see that. And we also see in Exodus, love your neighbor as yourself. A slightly different perspective here, where it's not about not doing to others what you don't want to be done to yourself, but instead doing to others what you would like them to do. It's a very subtle distinction, but an important one, because in the first perspective, we have something saying that tells us don't hurt others because you don't want to be hurt. And the second perspective, we have, think about what is good for you and do that to others because you want that to be done to you. It's subtle, but it's important. And that goes on, and we can see that throughout history, you've been struggling with this message. In 600 years before Christ, we also have the Buddha in Nepal telling us, hurt no others in ways that you wish yourself would find hurtful. So the same thing, like we're oscillating between don't hurt others to do unto others what you'd like to be done. And of course, 2,000 years ago, we have this wonderful message that comes from this incredibly elevated spirit, the Christ. We see that in the New Testament. Love your neighbor as yourself, which again means do unto others what you would like to be done unto you. And fast forward to today, 2020, I think that we're struggling with the message, and a bunch of people are telling you, just do what I want you to do, or else, right? So we've been going back and forth between try not to hurt people, to trying to love people, to try not to hurt people and love people, and see what the difference is. And if you really want a more historical approach to this, you can resort to a great talk by our friend Adam Osborne, who has spent some time giving us more historical context on the Golden Rule. You can always find that on YouTube. He's a great friend of ours. He's a great guy. If you like the historical context, go look on his Golden Rule talk, and you have that. But my point here is, and this is what I really want to talk about, is it's important for us to start thinking out of the box, if you will, and take a higher psychological vantage point here. Because the Golden Rule really is about shifting our thinking. We are used to think about ourselves as the center of the known universe, and just being on the first stage of the line that we drew, right? And just doing whatever it is that it takes for us to be happy, even if that means stepping on other people. Now, with the Golden Rule, we do a very important shift here psychologically, and we start to consider that there are other people in the world that we need to think about, and that we interact with them. So in many different ways, the others come in, right? There are other tenants in our divine apartment, if you will, in our globe. There are other people that we should think about and consider. And so even if we are still struggling with whether we should try not to harm them or whether we should try to love them, it's important to acknowledge that there are other people with which we have to interact. And the question then becomes, how do we do that? How can we then move from selflessness that we were talking about, right? Selfishness that we were talking about, to a state of altruism, of selflessness? Well, like we said, if there is only one stop on this line from left to right, or right to left, right? If you can only go from 1 to 4, so to speak, right? Then it becomes really hard. But if we can do stops along the road, if we can add some points in our trajectory to help us guide and see how we are progressing, then maybe this walk will be made easier. And to that end, I propose that we think about some stops along the way. If selfishness is the moment or those actions that we take in which we only care for our own well-being, and we're willing to sacrifice that of others to get what we want, we are willing to hurt others to get what we want, then maybe there is a next step forward in the line. And I call that step, and I see here step number 2, I call that step self-centeredness. And for me, the difference between selfishness and self-centeredness is this. When we are selfish, we're doing what we think we need to do to be happy and fulfill ourselves at the expense of others, and we know it, right? We know that I might have to compete with you and step on you to get what I want, and I'm willing to do it. Now, self-centeredness is slightly different, because in self-centeredness, we're still searching for a solution for our needs and our wants, but we just might not be thinking of hurting others. We're just going after what we want without thinking about people around us. And I think that is already a progress from selfishness, because in selfishness, we purposely don't care. We don't want to know, and we might even step on others. When we are self-centered, we've made progress in that we're trying to fulfill our needs, and we're just ignoring that people are there. We still think we're the center of the universe, but we don't purposely want to hurt other people. It just might happen that we do in the process of changing ourselves, because we're not thinking of others just yet. And step number 3 towards selflessness then will be a moment of evolution, right, from self-centeredness. And I call that solidarity in a way. That is when we are acting together with others as members of a group, because we know that it might benefit us and it might do them good. So that's when we begin to say, you know what, I am not going to hurt other people. I'm going to work with them because it benefits me, because I know that it helps me. And maybe this is when we are acting as a family or as a group, and I say, you know what, these people here are the one that I care about. I'm going to help them because they help me. we're still doing a little bit of a tribal mentality, so to speak. We're still thinking, you know what, I am willing to favor these people over other people that I don't know because they will help me too. So there is still a little bit of a selfishness tinge to it, if you will, but it has greatly evolved from station number 1 or station number 2, right? In station number 1 in selfishness, I'm still doing things because I don't care about others. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Station number 2 is I'm not thinking of others. They're not even coming into my mind. I don't mean to hurt them, but I'm just going to do that anyways. And stage number 3 is, I am willing to help others because I know it will benefit me. So I'm not trying to hurt people, but I am willing to change the ways I do because it benefits us. And of course, the challenge here is to get to a point where we're doing things to others because it's best for them, right? But to give this more of a context and example so that it's not as abstract in a way, let's imagine that we're in line for something. Maybe we're in line for food somewhere, right? And we're waiting our turn. On step number 1, if you're there, you're saying, you know what, I don't want to stay in that line. I'm just going to run everybody over to get to the front of the line and get what I want, to get the food that I want, or to buy the thing that I want. Obviously, these are simple examples, but it gives us perspective, right? I don't necessarily care about what's going to take. I'm going to do it. And if it hurts you or if it, doesn't help your cause at all, that's not my problem. That's your problem. That's the kind of we definitely want to run away from that, because the filled with that may be why we're in such a state, right? Number 2, when we're acting in a self-centered manner, it's slightly different. Like I run to the front of the line because I'm in a hurry. I want to get my food or whatever it is. And, I stepped on your foot. Oh, I'm sorry. I did not notice that you're see the line. I was so busy trying to get to the front of the line to get the food or to buy the thing that I need to do or to get to the appointment that I need to do in the queue, right? And that I bumped into you. I didn't even notice you were there, right? And step number 3 here on the line, as we move closer to selflessness, is when we say, you know what? I saw that there's a line. I want to get on the line, and I noticed that you were in line too. So you know what? You are further down the line. Let me come and stay with you. So help each other out. Maybe here in line while you go to the restroom and come back, so that both of us can get there quicker, so that we don't have to wait for the entire line together, and we're getting there quicker. Or maybe it's another scheme in which we, you know what, you stay here while I go get the table, so that we don't have to wait in line for the food and for the table. We're working together as a team, but we're still thinking about how do we maximize our gains without necessarily thinking about right? We're not thinking about whether it's fair or not for me to come in and skip line and stand in line with you because you were there before, right? We're not thinking about that. We're working together. It's already progress, for sure, no doubt. And it's much better to work in solidarity than work in self-centeredness. And I would argue that's a lot better to work in self-centeredness than it is to work in a selfish manner. So we see that there is progress. But is it really what we want from the world? Because in many different ways, what we really would like is to be able to help others and see that when somebody is in line, they're in a hurry for whatever their need may be, we could just simply say, you know what, go ahead, go to the front of the line because you need it right now. Because maybe we don't know what situation is going on. Maybe they are in a hurry, not because they're being selfish, but because they're taking care of somebody, or somebody got hurt, or they've been working towards something that, it would be nice if they got to the head of the line and got their food really quickly so they could go back and do it, right? But it's really difficult because we're still in competition mode. And for as long as we think that we are in competition mode, then we are not willing to let anybody go ahead and help themselves. So to shift that perspective is really hard, and it's really difficult, and requires a new perspective, because even when we're working in solidarity, there's still a little bit of a selfish perspective. Even when we think that we're trying to do good into the world, we may still be forcing on others our perspective. For example, if I believe that I should do unto others what I would like to be done unto myself, I may want to impose on others that which I want, even if they do not want it. Maybe I want everybody to think a certain way, so I am going to share with others my perspective and want them to do that because I want them to believe in the same thing. And in that moment, even though we're trying to do good, even though we're trying to help others, we are still focused on what we think is best for the world. And this is the key to the challenges of our times, I think, friends. Because we may be well-meaning, but by trying to impose what we think is best onto other people and want them to do the same thing that we think is best, we're still being a little bit selfish. We're still trying to impose our perspective on life, on society, on the world, even if we are well-meaning. Do you see what I mean here? And I think that's the challenge of our times. We all are trying to do the right thing. We all believe that there are better ways of living and doing things. But at the same time, we're still stuck in this moment where we're still trying to force on other people what we think is right. And when we have different perspectives of what is right, then it becomes a problem. A simple and silly example to use here is we all love ice cream. And I think we can agree that we all want to go out and eat ice cream right now. I don't. Okay, then maybe there's something wrong with you. Just kidding. But we all love ice cream. But when we get there, I may want to buy you, because I really care about you, strawberry ice cream. And you don't want strawberry ice cream, and you want chocolate ice cream. But I buy you strawberry ice cream anyways because I love strawberry ice cream and I want you to have strawberry ice cream. But you don't like strawberry ice cream, but I'm going to try to give you strawberry ice cream anyways because it's clearly the best ice cream in the world for me. But for you, really, maybe it's chocolate ice cream. So even though we like ice cream, and even though I'm trying to be nice and do something kind to you according to my perspective, it's still not that which suits you best. Do you see that? A simple example, silly example, right? And so how do we get to that point? How do we get to the point where you can get what you want and I can get what I want and we can live in communion as opposed to ruin our friendships even when we're trying to be nice with each other? Well, we need a new perspective for that. We need an upgrade to that golden rule, something that will take into consideration a higher vantage point. But the funny thing is, we may not have noticed that, but we have already been given that in history. As a matter of fact, for us Christians who believe in this incredible soul called the Christ or the messenger, the divine, in the Gospel of John, in the New Testament, we find a beautiful passage towards the end of his passage here with us before, right after the last meal where he's about to end his sojourn with us, if you will. The Christ tells us, a new command I give you, a new command I leave you. Right? A new charge. I think the better word would be not an order, but a charge. Like I am empowering you and I'm asking you to do this thing. Right? Love one another. And that's we knew. This was the golden rule. But here is the caveat. Here's the upgrade. Here's the golden rule 2.0 that Christ asks us to consider. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. Do you see here? Do you see the difference? This is golden rule 2.0. It's subtle, but it's very big because what the Christ is asking us to do is to use a new measuring stick for everything that we do. What he's asking us to do is to completely transform our perspectives and not think about things as we would like them to be because our perception is still limited. We're still limited in the ways that we can understand the lives and needs of others or our own. He wants us to think as he would have thought himself. And that requires us pushing ourselves up, thinking differently, and considering different perspectives. How would Jesus have thought about what is it that's best for others? Would he have tried to impose strawberry ice cream on everybody he met? Or would he know? Because he knows you deeply. He would have paid attention to you because he was not caught up in his own ego about eating the same kind of ice cream. He would have known because he has interacted with you before, he knows your history, that you prefer chocolate. And so when it comes time to serving ice cream, Jesus would serve you chocolate and would serve me strawberry because he has taken the time to get to know us individually and see what we want and what we need. Or maybe not serve us chocolate at all because we had too much ice cream. But you see my point here? My point is, for as long as we remain trapped in our perspective and think that we can tell what's best for others, then we are going to continue to stay in conflict. And we're going to continue to take selfish measures and actions, even if we think that they're well-meaning. But when we take his perspective and the way that he lived and what he taught us, that we need to be kind to each other, be with everybody, respect everybody, say our piece, of course, but be mindful of others and never impose things on anybody else, then it changes the conversation. It completely transforms the way we go about, because it's not about what I want. It's about what I need. It's not about what I think others want. It's about what others really need from a different perspective that I may not have yet considered. It takes time and effort to do this. It takes effort for us to consider what is it in the best interest of that person for their circumstance, which means we have to get to know them. We have to think differently than what we do for ourselves. That is the call for our times, I feel like. That is the challenge that we have when it comes to walking this line. To understand that even though I've made progress from selfishness to self-centeredness, and I am even working towards solidarity right now, to make that last step, it requires me to transform my perspective of the world, the way I think. I need to think with a mortal spirit, much the same way that Christ did, to think of ourselves and others as human beings who are in a process of evolution because they are immortal spirits that are temporarily here for a lesson, for a set of lessons, for learning about things. And when we think about this from a millennial perspective, when we think about this vantage point that Spiritism affords us because it teaches about the immortality of the soul, reincarnation, and so forth, the needs of others become slightly different than what we previously thought. Right? Maybe what we need is not immediate gratification right now, an immediate solution right now, but it is the resources and the teaching and the knowledge that would help ourselves and others make better decisions in the long run. To think with our spirits as opposed with our bodies, to think with our minds as opposed with our brains, to consider the long-term implications of our actions and our true spiritual sense of self that should come from understanding that we are immortal spirits temporarily dressed as this. When we shift that thinking, we no longer think about taking advantage of others or the moment, but we think about building for ourselves and for the future and for others. We start thinking as a community. So the calling of our times, I think, and what the pandemic is trying to remind us, is that we need to decide which way do we go in this world, in this time, in this place. We need to ask ourselves the question of where are we in the line to selflessness? Where are we in the process? So take a big look and see, am I at number 1? Am I at station 2 or am I at the 3rd stop? Have I been making progress to number 4? Because once we begin to ask ourselves where we are, and we might be surprised to realize that in some parts of our lives, we might be acting somewhere between 1 and 2, somewhere between selfishness and self-centeredness. Or maybe we are going to be surprised to find that we were thinking really greatly of ourselves when in fact, for this other action or moment in our lives, we are really somewhere between self-centeredness and solidarity, where we thought we were helping the world, but really we're just working for the benefit of our own little group. And is that little group our families? Is it our countries? Is it our teams? Is it our work colleagues? For as long as we're still favoring one group over another, I know it's really hard to hear this, right? We are not going to be able to truly be selfless. We really are not going to be able to work towards a world in which we can all help each other. Because if we are all thinking about each other's welfare, we are in a much better situation, because we are going to have 7 billion people acting on our best interest, as opposed to just having us act on our own best interest. And I think we agree that 7 billion or 7 billion and a half, it's better than one, right? So the challenge of our times is to ask ourselves, how can I transform my thinking? How can I stop thinking, of the world, about the world, just with my worldly perspective? How can I include the Spirit in the decision making? How can I remember every single day that I am an immortal spirit, temporarily here in the process of evolution, and that everybody around me, as Spiritism has told us, is also undergoing the same process? As we expand our perspective, we might be slightly closer to the perspective of the Christ, this incredibly evolved spirit who has come to be with us 2,000 years ago in person, but who has never really left us, because in spirit he is with us, whispering this eternal invitation for us to take charge of our lives and to transform our thinking. Because in transforming our thinking is really how we resurrect to this new reality. It's how we reimagine ourselves and create a new world in which we can watch out for each other. And if we are watching out for each other, I am sure that the world will soon become a better place. I am sure that we would be able to deal with this pandemic in a better way. I am sure that we will be kinder and more understanding towards each other, and we wouldn't be so quick to polarize and label other people as good or bad, as opponents or enemies. And if we do all this, and if we live in a world where there's no polarization, there can be disagreement without polarization, where we see things differently, but we're still together when we work towards the betterment of everybody, but respect our different perspectives. I hope that you see, as I do, that it might be gentler and kinder to all of us. So what role do we play in this? How can we transform our thinking? How can we think more with the Spirit? And in that manner, become more Christ-like? How can we really internalize the spiritual teachings that we have? Right? So that is the invitation of the moment. And I hope that you will consider that, and that it may help you somehow figure out where you are in your process for evolution. And of course, I would love to, to keep in touch with you guys and to hear more about your perspectives. I'm glad to share with you later if you think appropriate ways of finding me. But don't forget that as the immortal spirit that you are, it's important, in fact, it's imperative that you begin to dive deeper into this journey of trying to understand how we can shift our perspectives to really thinking spiritually as opposed to just materially. When we do that, things will transform. And when we transform ourselves, the world around us transforms too. So I'm going to stop there for a second and see if you guys have comments or perspectives, if I haven't put all of you guys to sleep. But there it is. So thank you for the time here.
Well, I like vanilla chocolate, but any ice cream you give to me, it's okay, okay?
That's the way to go to, my friend. I feel like, as ice cream is one of the food groups, everybody should eat ice cream. And if you do not like ice cream, I may have to question your, your judgment, your decision making.
Yeah, exactly. So, my friend, well, we have already one question here from Patricia. So is do to others what you want them to do to you. Invalid as other might not want strawberry ice cream when I do?
Great question, Patricia. I wouldn't say it's invalid, right? I would say that if we say it's invalid, we're only thinking about right or wrong. Like, think about it as a line, right? I think that it is better to think about giving them strawberry ice cream than not giving any ice cream at all. Let's take some time to acknowledge that we've made progress in considering that others may want ice cream. That is great. I think the point that we want to is that it's better, that even better than giving them ice cream is to ask them what kind of ice cream would they want. Is to consider that they might want different things than us. So it's not invalid, right? It's a step in the right direction, but we can do better. And that's the invitation. Can we do better? That is the charge that the Christ leaves us. Can we consider what he would do? Would he give strawberry ice cream for everybody, or would he know what kind of ice cream would be best for us? Right? And of course, ice cream here is a metaphor for anything else in life that you may want to think about. But shifting away from that is really hard for us because we're so used to thinking and seeing ourselves in the center of that thinking process that considering that there's a different way of thinking about what's best for others or for ourselves is extremely hard. It is so hard. Think about this, that he has told us that 2,000 years ago. And to this day, we still don't realize that he has given us an upgrade to the golden rule. We still stick to the golden rule, like, right? The whole thing about do unto others what you want them to do unto you, right? He's clearly given us another upgrade. He's giving us new commandment at the end of John, but we still don't even realize it's there because we're so used to thinking of ourselves as the center of the universe that it's hard for us to even acknowledge that he's asking us to think of ourselves not as the center of the universe, but to think of us as he would have thought of us. Wow, that's a big shift. It's a big struggle for me, at least for sure it is. And so how do we bring that to our lives? How can we bring into our lives the idea that, you know what, maybe my perspective is not the best one here or not the right one? How can I be sure that what I am doing could be done better or differently? And I think that it takes a lot of meditation, a lot of reflection. Prayer is something that goes into it as well. So I think that thinking about that doesn't make, thinking about giving others strawberry ice cream, Patricia, does not make them invalid. I think your question is a really great one. It's not making it invalid or bad. It's just that it could be done better, right? We're going for the gold here. Let's not settle for the silver medal, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, at the same time, we need to learn how to balance. And the point here, I again grab from your comments then, is not because we are starting doing this, we're gonna do other things right. It's a game. Sometimes we will get it, sometimes we won't. But the most important thing, you are in this process of transformation.
Absolutely. And it's great that you say that, Stevan, because we try new things and we make mistakes. We are not going to get things right? That's why we're here. If we were going to get everything right, we wouldn't be here. This is where we try new things. This life is our sandbox, is our laboratory. We learn things and then we try to apply them. And in the process, we make mistakes. We correct them, we reflect, we correct them, and we try again. Right? So in some aspects of our lives, being self-centered might be a great improvement from the selfishness that we had before. Right? So let's celebrate that self-centeredness is a step forward from being selfish, right? Offering ice cream from your plate to somebody else, right, is an improvement than not offering any ice cream, whatever, even if they don't like strawberry ice cream. The fact that you're doing that is a great improvement. Yay for us, right? It's okay for us to know that even though we are not a number 4, we're not all the way there, it's okay for us to know that where we are is okay. It's fine. We just have to continue to keep going because at some points in our lives, we might be at different points of that scale. And for different things too. Maybe when it comes to ice cream, I'm really selfish because I really like ice cream. So don't come asking for ice cream when I'm eating ice cream, people, right? But maybe for other aspects of my life, I am further down the line. Don't think of yourself also only as one fixed point in that line. You might be at different points in that life for different things. Maybe when it comes to your children, you are really giving, but maybe when you come to working with strangers, you may not be, right? So maybe you, in the relationship piece, you're more in the solidarity piece where you're helping out people because you are part of a group and you think there's a benefit to it, right? But maybe when it comes to finances, you're really giving and you really help everybody with your money and with your resources, right? So don't think of yourself as just one number in a line, but think about it as in a spectrum and ask yourselves, how am I faring at different points in my life for different things in different aspects in this line? Because what I hope that the line does is give you something to work towards, as opposed to saying, oh, I am bad, oh, I am good, right? Because if you just think that you're bad or you're selfish, there isn't necessarily a way forward, right? It's hard for you to see the next step. But if you see that, you know what, I feel like I acted a little bit selfish here. I got that on purpose. Like I got what I wanted and I kind of hurt other people and I knew what I was doing. So I'm not selfish. I acted selfish in that moment. How do I work on acting less selfish or maybe more self-centered next time? Or how do I act on working more like, in a solidarity manner with other people? So give you something to kind of go forward.
Yeah. So one more kind of a statement here from our friend Don. I've immersed myself in my Spiritist studies, 6 study groups and 4 public meetings. Retirement. Yeah, well done, my friend. I recently realized this process is like going to a foreign country to learn a language. I think of most everything in terms of the spiritual world. I've become a split personality. I see the spirit perspective and the human perspective at the same time. I understand events from the spiritual world and then try to figure out what I need to do so as a human.
Excellent point, Don. Excellent point, right? So, yes, and I love that you said you've been in retirement, but you really have not been in retirement. You might have been in professional retirement, but in ethical and spiritual terms, you are working like you have never done before. Right. So I think it's great to recognize that, because I think we're all in the process, or should be in the process too. And I think you're very right. I think it is definitely like learning a new language, right? Is learning how to think different. And this whole idea of trying to put the Christ-like mind, this cosmic spiritual mind, at the forefront of our actions is really hard, because first of all, it's hard to let go of what we have done in the past, right? And second, it's new territory. So it's really hard for us to go through this change, right? In general. And when that happens, sometimes we feel some confusion through the process, because we start to question our place in the world, right? Remind me to talk about my book, actually, if I may, later, because, I've been thinking about this changing process quite a bit. And I think what you're describing, Don, is a process that we all go through. Mm-hmm. Right. Sometimes we find ourselves temporarily blind to the world, just like Paul did on the way to Damascus, right? Where we start to see things differently. We know that we need to change, but we don't know how to make sense of the world around us. There's, I think, a passage, I think it was the first letter to John, that says, like, to be in the world, but not of the world. It's sort of like the split personality that you're describing, Don. I think that a lot of people feel like, right? Is that, we begin to realize that the world is very different than what we had previously thought. And sometimes we feel like an outsider when we begin to take the spiritual teachings into our heart, because they make us think and act differently. And that's really curious. It's really fascinating, but really like lonely at times, because you're like, oh, wow, this is really different. Like, I really feel like I need to behave very differently than everybody else is. And that leaves you sometimes in an awkward position, an awkward place. But the payment, right, the rewards of that are great, because you are really transforming yourselves. You're really changing yourselves. And you might find that little by little, it would take less for you to be content with yourself, right? In terms of, like, you might not want the things that you did before, and that you want different things. And that you might be more content with things, although you're not as easily satisfied, right? You want more, but you're satisfied yourself with what you have. It's a really interesting transformational process that takes place. And I think it's a marvelous one, right? But it takes us letting go, right? I think I write in one of the parts of my book, something that really struck with me, which is, the price of change is letting go. We have to let go to change. The reward of change is the infinite before us, because we have to let go of who we were and what we thought about to be able to make space for what is ahead. As a society, we have to do the same thing. We have to let go of what was before so we can create something new in its place. There is no space for us to hold what was and build something new. We have to let that go. It's hard. It's very hard. But I think that in your heart, you begin to know when it's time for you to move forward, to try different things. And as a society, I think that nature is giving us a wake-up call right now and saying, you know what? The way we were acting before might not have been great for everybody. So take a time out, think about things, and see how you're going to reinvent yourselves and the world around you. So in a way, when we think spiritually, right, with our Spiritist knowledge of this transformational era that sometimes we call planetary transition, this moment of transition, it's a great reflection moment for us to consider, what is it that we could do to make the world a better place? What moment do we live in that we have such an impact on what could be, right? These are incredible times. This is an incredible opportunity. It's a painful opportunity I give you that, right? But it's an immense opportunity for us to say, you know what? Let's just try new things. Let's reinvent. School, right? Our kids are, school is different now than it used to be because of the quarantine. So can we rethink school? Work is different now than it was before. Everybody's working remotely. So can we think about, do we ever need to go back to working the way we did before? It's a moment of creation, of new reimagining that is really hard. But the possibilities are incredible ahead of us. So great moment for us to realize the importance of what lies ahead and see how we can act to make this world a better place.
Thank Dan. And Patricia said here, what a great answer. Thank you, Dan.
Well, thank you, Patricia. What a great question you asked, right? Because I think that your question is a very valid one. Exactly what we're doing right now. We're thinking about figuring out how do we go do things, right?
Yeah, and Don compliments his comments here. I sometimes have a strong desire to go home, not sure where that is anymore.
You've become a citizen of the world, Don. It happens to all of us, right? What is home? Is it a place? Is it a feeling, right? Is it maybe the awareness that the home really is the spiritual perspective and the spiritual world around us? Like, what is home? I sometimes describe that feeling myself, Don, as longing for something that you do not yet know, right? How can you miss something that you don't know what it is? But sometimes I miss that which I don't know what it is, right? It's kind of a weird thing, right? Everything is going to be transformed. The way that we do learning, the way that we do Spiritism, right? We don't need to go to Spiritist centers if we live far away. There's lots of things that are coming from this. Look at that. Stevan and the gang here at the Spirit Society of Ireland are reaching people that normally now they would not have in the past reached, right? If they just offered place-based teachings, right? I think that the great value of being together and learning together in person is incredible. Nothing's better than that. We feel the connection, right? But even in the pandemic, there were, there was opportunities here. And now we have like Don, for instance, who's in Chicago and in Illinois, right? Joining Stevan, who's in Dublin. Isn't that incredible, right? I think it's good for us to recognize that there are things working in the midst of chaos right now, right? There are new ways of doing things. Does that mean that we never go back to physical, locations? No, we do. But maybe, I wonder, right? This is where that we have to create. Maybe if we're going to have a hybrid where we're going to have things happening in location, but also accessible online, or a complement where you can be sometimes in location, but the study continues to be online. The canvas is wide open. What's going to happen is going to be what we make of it. It's going to be great.
Yeah. And Dan, if you wanted to talk more about your book and how people can be in touch with you, so feel free, my friend.
Thank you, friend. Thank you for making the space. I'd love to keep in touch. I've recently created a website for the book, and I'm trying to start a newsletter. Some of you have told me that you like social media and all, but it's so much in your social media feed that's hard to kind of keep track of things. And so I decided to do like a monthly newsletter. If you want to find out what I'm up to or have more news about the book, or maybe you want to read, the introduction I had before it comes out and give your input, or maybe be entered to give some giveaways. I'm going to be giving some free books too. Sign up at danassisi.com, join the newsletter. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and even Twitter, even though I'm not that active on Twitter. But I love learning with you. And of course, if I may do my shameless plug here, I spent a year with my friend Paul, I call him friend now, thinking about his personal transformation, his journey to Damascus, and much the way we're talking about, I think it's comes from that. So I came up with 7 lessons that we can take from this travel that he's done in the road, and I try to make them meaningful to us, like this changing piece, the blindness that I talked about, all things that you can read in more detail if you're interested, right? And you can pre-order on Kindle, or even the book now. It's going to launch on December 12th. Right before Christmas in a way. I think it's a great time for us to think about transformations in general, starting a new year. And if you like, I'll be honored if you were to pick up a copy and see if that, and then tell me about it, right, to social media, see if you liked it or not. I know he's helped me tremendously because he's been my counselor, my psychologist throughout this past year. So I'd love to share that with others. So thank you for making the space there. And thanks, friends, for listening and spending the time with me. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. And also some couple announcements here, as we used to do now at the end of our lives. So this Saturday and Sunday, we will have the Spiritism X 2020. So you can watch this from Kardec Group Facebook and YouTube page, Kardec Radio, Spiritist Society of Ireland, Irish Spiritist Federation, and Radio Amigo Spirit in Brazil. So, and all be connected. And you can watch there on your time zone. So it's time London time. So it's going to be a little bit early for you, Dan, but Dan is one of the speakers. I don't know in which batch you are, Dan, but...
They've been very kind, and they put me on the last batch. So, it will be morning for me, but it won't be like 4 o'clock in the morning for me. So
okay, great. Yeah. Yeah. So stay in touch, do your registration, and let's see this different way to talk about it with Spiritism. Every speaker going to have like 15 minutes. And before we start this live here, I said to Dan, it's kind of challenge. Sometimes you have an hour, 45 minutes to talk about something, and hours you bring some topics, and now you need to put just one topic, and you need to emphasize something. It's pretty challenging, but it's great. Also, on the 28th of November, our dear friend Aru Gandhi will give a special talk to BUS, British Union Spiritist of Society, and he's going to talk the lessons of Mahatma Gandhi for our daily lives. Just remind, Aru Gandhi is son of Mahatma Gandhi, so it's a great opportunity. In order to get the Zoom invitation, you need to send an email to office@buss.org. What more we have here? Again, you want to know more about Spiritism? That's done. We always show this in our end of our talks. You have two best places to go and learn more about Spiritism. One is the spiritistinstitute.org, and the other one is Spiritist Academy. So both is a complementary of the other, and the main point here is help spread the Spiritism teachings in the English language world. So be in touch, give ideas, and your comments is more than helpful to make these accessible. What Dan just said, having these lockdown and being online with you guys just showed how close we are, even though we are a part of ourselves. So thank you very much. And then do you want to add something about the Spirit Institute and the Spiritist Academy, as you are one of the members of these two groups?
Thank you, friend. Thanks for the time. The Spirit Institute really works with advanced Spiritism in English, so we do a lot of different efforts trying to get the word out to folks, especially in the English-speaking world. Spiritist Conversation, the podcast, is one of those, and so forth. And the Spiritist Academy is a great effort by our friend Eduardo and Mirella, who are actually in Scotland right now. Living in Scotland over there, and who have been putting these great videos, this great explainer videos on interesting concepts that you can watch at your whenever you want to. So great resources out there. Obviously, you have Kardec Radio, you have Explore Spiritism as well. Great many things there that are kind of popping up. And stay tuned too for a new website that we're launching in the coming weeks with a list of all Spiritist books available in English and where to find them. We're trying to make things easier for you to access information that you may want to grow in your own search. And so I'm really pleased and to share the space with you. And thank you for making space share about these wonderful efforts with folks, Stevan. And we really appreciate all the work you guys, and you specifically too, are doing to help people find their way in life.
Thank you. And I like the comment here. Alessandro Smiley here said the spirituality guiding us to use the social media as practice for the spiritual world. There is no barriers for us to be connected.
Indeed.
Let's do it. Thank you. And my dear friend, could you do our final prayer, please?
I would be honored. Thank you. So in this moment in time, I want to take a quick second to breathe in gratitude and to raise our thoughts up to the Creator of all things and be thankful for the opportunity that we have to be together here, connected from different parts of the world geographically, but still in union, in unison of thought, expanding this beautiful vibrations of love that we receive at this moment, as we are reminded that there is a greater force behind everything guiding us, that even if times may seem difficult at the moment, there's also great opportunity for growth and understanding. And that we also may put our hearts at ease, that even if we are in fear for our lives or the lives of others, we still live on as immortal beings that we are. So we raise our thoughts to God in gratitude, in wonder of all the beautiful things that can come up, even of the hardest and darkest moments, such as the ones we live through. And that we remain devoted and committed to the idea of growth, of kindness, of moving ourselves along from the selfishness that still sometimes is within us, to a beautiful and better world where we are all going to be able to take a more selfless position towards that which we do and that which other people do. So thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to learn. Thank you for giving us a chance to be together. And specifically today, dear God, we ask for all our friends who continue to work towards others and put together wonderful programming and opportunities for growth out there in our dear Ireland. So may all our friends in Dublin and beyond feel our special gratitude and our special kinship in this moment in time, and hoping that we can see each other in person in the near future. Thank you, God, for all that you do. So be it.
Amen. Thank you very much, my friend. So, dear friends, our American friends, our Irish friends, our Brazilian friends, Australia friends, everyone, thanks so much for your time. Thank you very much for your patience. Our dear Dan, you are more than welcome anytime you want to join us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, friend.
Thank you. I'll see you Thursday, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.